Chris Daly here. It's always my delight to talk to folks who are influencing the Jamaican community in very affirmative way, and we do have a doozy for you today. We have Dr. Karla Hylton. She's a distinguished educator, accomplished author, passionate mental health advocate, blended expertise in academia, writing, and mental wellness advocacy. She's the founder of Your Empowerment Solution. Yes, Institute specializing in biology, physics, and chemistry tutoring. There's so much more to this amazing woman. So just lean in as she shares her story, the unvarnished truth, purpose in our pain. You will come away inspired and ready to embrace your authenticity and pursue your passion with resilience. So, welcome, Dr. Hilton, this afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. First, we'd like to know a little about you. Can you share a little about your family roots?
Well, my family roots are deeply planted in Jamaica. I actually come from an East Indian lineage that deeply values education, resilience, and community. So, family
Uh-huh.
was a big part of my life growing up. And when I say family, I'm talking about the extended family and the Indian
Yeah.
culture. So, my family, they were always supportive and they encouraged me to pursue education. Education was a big part of my journey in Jamaica.
It's part of the family DNA,
It
education.
is, it is,
Yeah.
it is.
Wow. What parish? We're in Jamaica.
Okay, I was actually born in Clarendon,
Okay.
but my parents moved to St. Thomas when I was about 2 to 3 years old.
Yeah.
So I grew up in St. Thomas.
Wow.
Mhm.
You share that, throughout this journey, part of the family DNA is that education is important. That now we're calling you Dr. Hilton.
Yes,
Yeah. How did you get this calling of getting to a PhD level? And how did you
okay.
decide on that journey?
Okay, growing up, as I said, my dad wanted me to be a medical doctor, the dream of most Indian men.
Right.
And I was on that path for a good while, but I attended the University of the West Indies. And while there, I was approached by a professor in biotechnology. And the
Mm,
biotechnology center was just opening up at UWI Mona. And to cut a long story short, I was recruited into
okay.
the biotechnology center. So instead of pursuing medicine, I pursued a doctorate in biotechnology.
Wow,
So,
that's incredible. So
yes.
your dad was promoting the classical medical doctor. You got promoted. Were there any other influencers in your academic journey here?
I will have to say my dad was a major influencer,
Yes.
My mom supported him as well, but my dad, he was passionate. He himself did not have much education.
Okay.
However, he was brilliant and he really wanted all of his children to do, education was what he had to give us and we
Yes.
must, take it and do well with it. That's something nobody can take away from you.
Wow. That's great. But you're not really you're beyond academic um, person of much talent. You've written this provocative book, The Unvarnished Truth, Purpose in the Pain of, and it's an autobiography. How did you, first of all, muster the courage to write such a challenging work?
Okay, so the unvarnished truth, it is a very deeply personal journey.
Yes.
And the idea of putting, my most vulnerable experiences into words and sharing them with the world was quite daunting. However, I realized that my story was not just mine, it was a tapestry of struggles, triumphs, and lessons that could definitely resonate with others facing similar challenges.
Okay.
And the turning point, I think, that, came when I understood, truly understood, that the purpose of my pain was greater than the pain itself. And writing became an act of healing for me, a way for me to confront and process the scars, my past, while at the same time creating, sort of a roadmap for others to find hope. Writing this book also required a great deal of faith. I had to trust that, persons would not perceive my vulnerability as a weakness, but instead as a strength. And so, it was also a spiritual journey. I prayed for guidance
Hmm.
and leaned heavily on my belief that God could use my story to ultimately uplift others.
Wow. Well, thank you for stepping up to the bar for such a courageous occasion and being able to bless so many people because of your work. Uh, Part of it would be to determine. Could you say that if there are three main purposes that you'd like for the reader to take away from your fine work, what would those, in summary, what would those three purposes be? How to purchase that, repurpose that pain into purpose. What would those three would be for you?
Okay, I would want them to see that there is always hope in adversity. I want readers to know that no matter how dark or overwhelming their struggles may seem, there is always hope. And
Mhm.
life's most painful moments can actually serve as stepping stones to growth and to transformation. Another purpose would probably be the power of vulnerability.
Mm,
And yes, because sharing my story was an act of courage.
yes.
And I want readers, I want them to see that it is not a weakness, instead, it is a strength. And by confronting our pain and owning our stories, the mistakes and everything in between, we empower ourselves to heal.
Boy, that's really tough.
Thirdly would be faith,
Ah.
and resilience. The trials of life, they often feel unbearable. But I'm hoping that readers would recognize that, it's absolutely essential to have faith and resilience in navigating the challenges of life, trusting in a greater plan. And this was not easy for me, but
Mm.
it's something I had to learn. You have to trust in a greater plan and cultivate that inner strength that can lead to your own healing and a renewed sense of purpose. So, really, ultimately, I'm hoping that, persons who read this book feel encouraged, they understood and empowered. I want them to feel empowered to transform their pain into purpose.
Wow. Thank you for that, Doc. Uh, there's several segments of audience that should embrace this fine work. The one that I'd like for, as I said, there's a lot of pain points, but for parents, first speak to parents and how their parenting style can shape a child's life for good or for ill. Let's speak to parents first.
Well, parenting, of course, is one of the most impactful roles a person can play in shaping a child's life. Now, in the unvarnished truth, I share how certain experiences I had, influenced my self-esteem, my decision-making ability, as well as the way I navigated the challenges in life. Um, Parents must recognize that their words and actions carry immense weight. A parenting style rooted in love, understanding, and encouragement
Mm-hmm.
builds a child's confidence and leads to good self-esteem. Now, conversely, if there is that lack of affirmation, if it is that the child is experiencing harsh criticism or emotional neglect, now that is serious and it can leave lasting scars that foster a feeling of inadequacy, insecurity, and abandonment. And myself, as I mentioned the word abandonment, I did not always have a close relationship with my mom, and I grew up with that fear of abandonment. I also went through some childhood trauma where um, involving gunmen, so to speak, and there
Mm.
was a home invasion. And of course, that as a child of 5 years old, you thought, you recognized how easy it would be to lose your parents.
Right.
And that also left some lasting scars. I have been through quite a lot as a child, and the
Yeah.
different events have, left their scars. And, I'm in my mid 50s now, and I'm just learning now how to deal with all of these traumatic events that occurred. And I can say I'm healing and doing much better.
Amen. That's good that you're processing. Um,
Mhm.
the next audience I'd like for you to speak to would be young people. Sometimes they're idealistic and there's a naivety that comes with it. What are some of the red flags that you would alert them to, and how to save themselves and their heart in tough circumstances?
um you know Protecting your heart requires discernment, especially when building relationships.
Yeah.
This could be romantic or even otherwise. We have to cultivate discernment. A lot of times people may say all the right things, but as it is said so many times, actions speak louder than words. It is the actions that reveal a person's true character. And
Right.
if someone consistently makes promises but fails to follow through, take note. Words can charm you, but it's the
Hmm.
actions that are going to lead to lasting trust. Now, you should also, I think, pay attention to emotional patterns, right? When you're in a relationship, no, so I'm talking about a romantic relationship. No, it should feel uplifting and safe. It should not be draining or filled with anxiety,
Right.
right? You should be free to feel and act as you truly are. You should not, if somebody makes you doubt your worth or
Mm.
dismisses your feelings or manipulates you, these are some major, major, major red flags. Love should never feel like a power struggle, right? If you're in a relationship, it's the two of you as a team.
Right.
Another thing I would love to tell young people is that they need to know their worth. The
Ah.
most important relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. And that's easier said than done. So, but we have to learn to develop self love and self respect so that you do not settle for less than you deserve. I did that for a very long time. When you know your worth, you will recognize good relationships and honor and celebrate those. Also, fast attachments. If you're in a relationship and someone tries to rush intimacy, that's also a red flag, I think.
Right.
And probably most importantly, trust your gut.
Yes.
Trust your gut. We tend to sense when something is not right. And if you feel uncomfortable, don't dismiss the instincts. They're your mind's way of protecting you.
Your intuition count, yeah,
Yes,
is a
your
very
intuition.
important sense.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So,
The last group that I'd like to for you to speak with is that those are in a, going through a very painful valley right now. What would be three things you'd like to share with them to give them a sense of hope as they go through this challenging journey?
okay. Pain, whether it's emotion, and I guess I'll probably speak more to emotional pain.
Yeah.
That can feel overwhelming, even, insurmountable. And that, happened to me. And I could not see that there was any hope or, any future for myself. And, I am here to tell you that I actually attempted suicide twice.
Mm,
And, but came out on the other side, and I am healed and I am well, you know,
amen.
because so I want to advise persons to allow yourself to feel the pain. It's natural, sometimes we want to avoid the pain, but we need to face it. We need to allow ourselves to grieve, to
Yes.
cry, or to express our hurt. So bottling up the emotions lead to even more harm. In my case, it led to autoimmune diseases.
Oh, gee.
So don't let the feelings consume you. Face them, acknowledge them, and maybe you can journal, pray about it, talk to a therapist or a good friend. Also seek support and community. The church is a great place.
Yes.
Healing requires connection. And so sometimes when we are hurt and feeling as if nobody understands, we can disconnect ourselves from family. And that is what you should not do, right? Surround yourself with the people who love and support you.
Well, that's
No,
such great wisdom.
yeah.
Yeah.
Another thing is to really just to hold on to hope. That's hard. That is hard because I couldn't do it. There was a time when I could not do it.
Ah,
Because when we are in pain, it makes it hard for us to see beyond the current moment. But we have to remember healing is a process, it's not a destination. So we focus on one small, manageable step each day. Make time for self care. It may be that you need professional help, whatever it is, you know, take action. Just, take action.
that's wonderful. Boy, the advantage truth, the purpose and the pain. Boy, you've shared so much. You've been so generous and shared so much great gems this morning, Doc. Um, I know some folks hearing this, they'd like to rush out and get a copy of this fine work. How can they obtain a copy?
Well, it is available on Amazon.com as well as Barnes and Noble.
Okay.
Mhm.
You also, for those who may not have the energy or the time to read, you also have a companion workshop.
Uh,
Tell us about the workshop and how
no, it's
can
not a
people avail
workshop.
themselves of this.
It's not a workshop. It's actually a
A
workbook.
workbook. Okay. All
Yes,
right.
it is a workbook, and the workbook is called Vanquishing Monsters. And again, this is a resource for persons who are actively trying to remove themselves and heal themselves from pain. It goes through exercises and worksheets to help people who may be having suicidal thoughts,
Mm-hmm.
who may be in a narcissistic relationship, who might be going through a divorce. It also helps persons to spiritually renew their connection with the higher power.
Yes.
So that workbook is also available on Amazon.
That's wonderful. So you've given people how to actually take action, not just read, but to take action through the work.
Right, right. Because
Yeah.
what happened was that after I did the book, a number of persons would call me to find out. They wanted more information about what I did to get myself out of all the different traumatic experiences. And I decided that perhaps it would be a good idea to put it down on paper. And reception has been good so far.
That's wonderful. Well, if people would like to even reach out to, is there a website or what contact would you suggest for them to
Yes,
reach?
there is I do have a website. It is www.khylton, so that's KHYLTON.com. And there's lots of free resources there, lots of information, and persons can reach out to me from
So they
that.
can subscribe and get
Ex-
resources and and get under your trusted tutelage. So thank you so much for sharing that, Doc.
yes.
Um, the is there work to follow given your blessed talent and pen here? Are you
Um,
working on something new or considering it in the future?
I am considering I have actually started another book, which will be a deeply spiritual book, actually.
Okay.
It's going to delve into the ways, the presence of God manifests in our lives through my personal experiences,
Yes.
as well as, insights that I've gained along this journey of life. I'm also into mental health advocacy, so I also do speaking engagements, etc. And I act as a mentor, especially to young persons who may be feeling lost, seeking hope.
Yes.
I I counsel them.
It is so rich. I look forward to your pen finishing that work and blessing us again. As
Thank you,
we
Jay.
close, Dr. Hilton, is there a final gem of wisdom you'd like to share with our community?
Um, I would probably want to say that, we all go through pain, but your pain has a purpose and your life has immeasurable value. No matter how broken or lost or insignificant you may feel in the moment, remember that God is crafting your life's journey, and every tear, every triumph is part of your destiny.
Mm,
So I would encourage everybody to just lean into their faith and trust in God's perfect timing, and never stop believing in the power of grace and transformation.
Dr. Karla Hilton, the unvarnished truth, purpose in the pain. Thank you for sharing such unvarnished truth, so seasoned with grace this morning. I know we'll be blessed. So thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you for having me. It was a pleasure.